Or, face planted, Johnny. With a great deal of effort and surprise and show of otherwise absent self-control, I managed to respect her wishes and walk her to the office, and all I wanted to do was scoop her up in my arms and run for help. I was panicked and worried, and every time she groaned or sagged against me, the higher my anxiety grew. However, having spent the last 10 minutes outside the principal's office listening to Mr. Toomey rant and rave, I was all out of that precious patience. Why wasn't he taking her off me? Why the fuck was I still standing outside his office holding up a half-comatose girl? He was the adult here. Your mother's on the way, Mr. Toomey announced with an exasperated sigh, sliding his phone into his pocket. How could this happen, Johnny? I already told you. It was an accident, I hissed while I continued to hold up the girl, keeping her small frame tucked into my side. You need to get Magella to check her over, I repeated for the 15th fucking time. I think she has concussion. Magella is out on maternity leave till Friday, Mr. Toomey barked. What am I supposed to do with her? I have no first aid training. Then you better call a doctor, I shouted back heatedly, still holding on to the girl, because I broke her fucking head. What's your language, Kavanagh? Mr. Toomey snapped. I rolled off the standard. Yes, sir. Not really giving a shite, and not feeling particularly sorry either for the matter. My role in the rugby academy meant that I was given a lot of leeway in the school, a lot of preferential treatment that other students didn't get. But I wasn't going to push it on my first day back. No one had used up my quota by maiming the new girl. Are you okay, Miss Lynch? Mr. Toomey asked, prodding her like she was an uncooked turkey he didn't want to catch salmonella from. It hurts, she moaned, sagging into my side. I know, I soothed, pulling her closer. I'm so fucking sorry. Jesus, Johnny, this is all I need, Mr. Toomey hissed, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. It's her first day. Her parents come here tearing up the school. It's the last thing I need. It was an accident, I bit out, angry now. She groaned and I made a conscious effort to lower my voice when I said, I hardly meant to hurt the girl. Yes, well, tell that to her mother when she arrives, Mr. Toomey huffed. She was already pulled out of Ballylagan Community College for being verbally and physically attacked. And what happens to her the first day at Tooman? This. I didn't attack her, I spat. It made a bad kick. Shifting her under my arm, I glared at the so-called authority figure. Hold up, I snapped, registering his earlier words. What do you mean she was attacked? I looked down at the tiny little female under my arm. Who could attack her? She was so small and frail. What happened to her? I heard myself ask, attention back to the principal. Oh, I think I'm going to fall, she croaked out, distracting me from my thoughts. Reaching up, she clutched my forearm with her small hand inside. Everything's spinning. I won't let you fall, I automatically replied in a soothing tone. It's okay. I felt her slip and I pulled her upright, holding on to the tiny thing for all I was worth. I've got you, I coaxed, tightening my arm round her. You're good. Look, sit down with her, Mr. Toomey ordered, gesturing to the bench that lined the wall outside his office. I'll go find a compress or something. You're leaving me with her? I demanded, mouth hanging open. Alone? The principal didn't answer me. Of course he didn't, the fucking coward. Because he was already miles down the corridor, desperate to get away from the type of responsibility he was paid to stand over. Spineless idiot, I growled under my breath. Frustrated, I walked us over to the wooden bench, dropping her school bag on the floor. I carefully lowered our bodies onto the bench until we were sitting side by side. I kept my arm wrapped round her bony little shoulders, not daring to leave her side for the fear of her falling. This is just great, I thoughted, sulking. Fucking wonderful. You feel so warm, she whispered, and I felt her cheek nuzzle against my bare chest, like a hot water bottle. Okay, you really need to keep your eyes open, I told her, panicked by her words, knees bouncing nervously. I turned her in my arms and caught hold of her face between my hands. Hey, I coaxed, giving her face a little shake with both hands. Hey, girl, I added lamely, because I didn't even know her name. I'd almost killed the girl and I didn't even know her fucking name. Open your eyes. She didn't. Hey, I said louder now. Look at me. I shook her head. Look at my face. This time she did. She opened her eyes and... Fuck me. I unintentionally sucked in her short breath. Jesus, this girl was beautiful. I noticed it earlier, of course. She had a striking look about her. But now, seeing her up close like this and being able to count the freckles on her face, 11, by the way, it was hitting home just how striking she was. Her blue eyes, big and round and fucking beautiful, with small hues of yellow dotting through them, rimmed the thick, long lashes. I wasn't even sure if I'd ever seen that shade of blue before. It certainly didn't shake anything up in the memory bank. Hands down, she possessed the most gorgeous pair of eyes I'd seen in my life. She had long, elbow-length dark brown hair that was thick and curled at the ends. And hidden behind the mountain of hair was a small heart-shaped face, smooth, clear skin and a tiny dimple on her chin. Perfect shaped, dark eyebrows that arched above those killer eyes of hers. A tiny button nose, high cheekbones, and these puffy, swollen lips. Lips that were a natural rosy red colour and kind of looked like she had been sucking on an ice pop or something, which I knew she hadn't because I'd spent the last half hour trying to keep her awake. Hi, she breathed. I blew out a relieved breath. Hi. That's really your face? She asked, eyes drooping, as she studied me with a vacant expression. It's so pretty. Oh, thanks, I offered uncomfortably, still cupping her cheeks in my hands. It's the only one I have. I like it, she whispered. It's a good face. Just before closing her eyes again, sagging forward. No, I coaxed, jolting her roughly. Stay with me. Moaning, she blinked awake again. Good job, I praised with a heavy exhale. Now, stay awake. Who are you? She croaked out, depending entirely on my hands to keep her head upright. I'm Johnny, I told her, biting back a smirk. Who are you? Shannon, she whispered. Her eyes drooped a little but quickly sprung back open when I nudged her cheeks. Like the river, she added with a small sigh. I chuckled at her response. Well, Shannon, like the river, I said brightly, desperate to keep her focused and talking. Your parents are on the way. They're probably going to take you to the hospital for a checkup. Johnny, she groaned and then winced. Johnny, this is bad. What? I urged. What's bad? My dad, she whispered. I frowned. Your dad? Can you save me? I frowned. Do you need me to save you? She mumbled, sleepily. Rub my hair. I balked at her request. You want me to rub your hair? She nodded and sagged forward. It hurts. Shifting closer, I adjusted her body so that her head lolled against my shoulder, and while cupping her face with one hand, I used the other to stroke her hair. It was an awkward position, but I managed. Jesus. What the fuck was I doing? I shook my head to myself, feeling like an idiot, but continued to do what she asked anyway. It was going well, right up until her face planted on my dick, jerking at the insanely intimate contact, not to mention the sudden jolt of awareness in my dick and the scorching pain in my groin. I attempted to move her face from my crotch, but she groaned loudly in resistance. And then she pulled her legs up on the bench and settled herself down for a nice old kip on my cock, for fuck my life, holding my hands up in the air and far away from her body, because I needed a sexual harassment accusation like I needed a hole in the head. I looked round for someone to help me, but no one came. The hallways were conveniently void of adults. Fuck this school. I thought about making a run for it, but I could hardly throw her off me. Yeah, because breaking her head wasn't fucking bad enough. I just sat there, with her head in my lap and her cheek nuzzling my dick, and prayed to God to give me the strength to ignore the feelings growing inside of me and not getting an erection. Other than the obvious reason of horrendous timing, my cock was broken. Well, it wasn't so much my cock being broken as it was the surrounding area. But getting hard couldn't result in me passing out right alongside her. But then she whimpered, and the sound brought back the worry and concern. Disaster averted. Like it had a mind of its own, my hand moved to her face. "You're okay," I coaxed, battling down my anxiety, the urge to nurture this girl, both a new and equally terrifying feeling for me. "Shh. You're okay." Brushing her hair back off her cheek, I tucked the dark brown tendrils behind her ear and then resumed stroking her sore head. There was an impressive lump forming on her scalp where the ball made contact, so I stroked the area with my fingertips, using the feather-light touch. "Is this okay?" She breathed. "It's good." "Good," I mumbled, relieved, and continued with the stroking. A faint scar caught my eye, where her temple met her hairline. Without thinking about what I was doing, I trailed a finger over the inch-long indent of her skin and asked, "What happened here?" "Here." I trailed my finger over the old mark. "What's this from?" "My dad," she replied, breathing out a heavy sigh. My hand stilled as my brain registered her fucked up answer. "Come again?" When she didn't respond, I used my other hand to gently shake her shoulder. "Shannon." I tapped the old scar with my fingertip and said, "You're telling me that your dad did this to you?" I tried to keep my tone calm, but it was a challenge with the sudden urge to maim and kill bubbling up inside. No, she whispered. "So your dad didn't do this?" I asked for confirmation. "He definitely didn't." "Of course not," she mumbled. Thank fuck for that. I released the breath I hadn't realised I'd been holding. "Jimmy, it's Johnny." "Oh, Johnny." "Yeah?" "Are you mad at me?" "What?" The question, spoken so quietly, threw me, and I stared down at her, feeling a pang of protectiveness in my gut. "No, I'm not mad at you," I told her, pausing for a long moment, fingers stalling before asking. Are you mad at me? I think so, he whispered, nuzzling resuming. My eyes rolled back and I bit back a moan. Oh, fuck. You can't do that, I bit out, holding her head still. Do what? He sighed contently, then rubbed her cheek against my thigh. Be mad? No, I choked out, holding her head still once again. Be mad all you want. Just stop grinding your head on my lap.